I mean, how pathetic and how cowardly is that? They won't even bring you into court, sit down, look you in the eye, and tell you why you can't go to court. They send you an email. But let me read what the order that my attorney, he said, her order dismissing our case for lack of jurisdiction reads much like the government's brief and does not directly address the gist of our argument regarding the constitutional absurdity of being subject to a secret order that can be changed in secret at any time and without notice and cannot be challenged in a district court.
Unbelievable.
Now, she ruled in favor of that. And so when you go to an airport, you don't even know what the rules are. They don't even have to tell you. So you got all these little guys like that guy you ran into who are kings of their own domain. In essence, he can do anything he wants there. And you can't know the rules. He can grope you anywhere. He can take you in a back room. Hey, if I was a pedophile, I'd get a job doing this in a minute.
Well, they've caught a lot of them doing that, but that's key what you just said, because they admit now over 2 million Americans are on the no-fly list, no way to get off of it, won't tell you why you're on it. That whole thing is secret. No judge, no jury. The end of our entire system, they put 3-year-old kids on it. Now they're saying to drive down the highway, you're going to have their authorization.
Yeah, well, they'll do it with these administrative law rulings until we as a people stand up and tell them enough of this.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
And restore
no due process worse than China.
What's that?
Exactly. I'm saying no due process worse than China, and they just say administratively we say you can't fly, and now they're saying they're going to have an administrative no gun buy list, Governor.
I wouldn't doubt it for a minute. Every one of our constitutional Bill of Rights is being assaulted by our very elected officials, by them allowing them to do this.
All right, we'll be back. I want to finish up with this to get into JFK anniversary, all this stuff coming up. Stay with us. Jesse Ventura is our guest. We're going to get into a host of other issues. Aaron Dykes is also up there at the network riding shotgun. I know he's going to pop in a few minutes with a question for Jesse Ventura on the TSA. Aaron has to fly a lot shooting interviews for my films, and believe me, he used to like to travel. Now he's like, do I have to go on the road? And at a certain point, I have to morally say, no, you don't. Here's the company RV. But now they're going to set up highway checkpoints. Now, this dovetails into the protesters being attacked, the Bill of Rights under attack, all of it with Governor Ventura. But the heart of the matter is this administrative law. They set up the CIA in 47 and said it would be reviewable by Congress, but would be basically above the law. Now when the EPA shuts down selective power plants that aren't part of the insiders, they declare that it's administrative, that Congress has given them a blank check. But all of the common law and all the federal rulings until about the 50s and 60s stated this stuff is not even law. It's a fraud. So they just have made up, trumped baloney that they then slap on top and do things that the most authoritarian states don't even do. And now they're saying they're going to have a no-gun buy list, folks. Are you ready for that? You didn't do anything wrong. No judge, no jury. You're not a felon. You're on the list. TSA says they want to have a system where you don't get a job unless they authorize you to have one. This is a total and complete federal power grab. Governor Ventura, how far can this corruption go? I mean, I know they're now teaching police everywhere that the Constitution is not relevant. I see that in state and federal cases where the judge says to people, you don't bring the Constitution in my courtroom to lawyers. Is this not classical treason?
I would think so. You know, it'll go as far as we allow them to go with it, because ultimately, Alex, it's our fault.
It is.
You know, and for being laissez-faire, for being asleep at the wheel, whatever you want to say, for not being concerned, for living in our own little lives and not paying attention to what they're doing. So whatever happens to this country is ultimately the people's fault. Now, but you still can't blame them solely. There are some dastardly people that are running our country, and dastardly people that are in control of the power. And it's very frustrating, because you think no one's out there listening. You think no one cares, because everyone just sits back and accepts it like lemmings. You know, no one voices any concern. Again, I would love to see the day where everyone would boycott the airport in protest. But you can't get people to do that because they think they've been made safe. They think that because of 9/11, this is required in airports to keep us safe. And it's going to spill out of the airports, and it's going to spill into everybody's life. And I guess nobody's going to truly believe it until they come up to your home without a warrant, and they come inside to search it. And then I've even had people say to me, well, I've got nothing to hide. Why should I care if they do that? You know, that's the attitude you got out there amongst a great deal of people, Alex. Well, I'm not a criminal. I don't care what they do. I have nothing to hide.
Exactly, but what about government in history, the horrible things it does when it's not kept on a short leash, as our founders with common sense pointed out. But think about the precept, the idea that anywhere there's a potential danger, government has a right to put its hands on you, to stop you, to arrest you, to keep you safe. Well, then I guess you can't ride a horse. You might fall off and get killed. You can't go surfing.
And that used to be the greatness of this country. The greatness of this country was the fact that you could come here and be self-reliant, that you wouldn't have a government hovering over your head, and that, yes, we'll stumble and make mistakes. Yes, things will happen. But it's like what I used to say when I was governor. You can't legislate stupidity. People will do stupid things. That's also part of freedom, the freedom to be stupid. You have freedom to be smart, and freedom goes both ways. And you can't sit back and jury pick what you're going to be free and what's not going to be free.
Well, it gives the feds an excuse to go everywhere if there's this shadowy enemy they can't defeat. But let me tell you a quick story and get your take on it. And then Aaron Dykes has got a question, who's up there in the studio in Austin, or I guess down there. I'm up here in Utah. I went to Meteor Crater, where one of the biggest meteors ever hit the Earth. And when I'd been there as a child, they let us hike down to the bottom. And the guy said, nope, because of lawsuits, even if you sign a form, lawyers still sue. They've taken the diving boards out of the swimming pools. They're taking the metal slides out everywhere. They're taking the merry-go-rounds out. Then I get to the Grand Canyon, and I said, these areas were open when I was in college. They go, not now. And they're even talking about getting rid of the mule rides, where you can't do that because somebody might get hurt sometime. And then I got to Monument Valley, Utah, and I hadn't read the fine print, and they said, oh, you're not allowed to go in 90+% unless it's on a little truck, and you can't really get off. You could just go to the front of it and look at them because somebody might get hurt. And, I mean, literally, this country is going beyond tyrannies we've seen in other nations.
Why do you think I live half the year in Mexico?
Yeah.
I go to things down there called the bloodless bullfights, where they don't hurt the bull. You still have the matador. The matador's in danger, but the bull isn't harmed at all. And so I don't have a problem with that. Well, one of the things, they do things in Mexico you wouldn't dare do here. Like they got a thing where they take two people out of the crowd and they put them on a teeter-totter, you know, that goes up and down.
Yeah.
Only this one also circles like a propeller, and then they let a bull loose. And the bull charges, so you got to go up when the bull goes underneath you. I mean, it's hilarious. I turned to my wife, I said, oh my God, could you imagine if somebody proposed this in the United States? See, I like living in Mexico because down there you're kind of on your own. And if you do something stupid, like if I go out surfing alone and I hit my head on the board and I drown out there, well, the Mexican people, they're going to feel bad for me, and they're going to probably say a prayer for me and all that stuff. But ultimately, they're going to say, what a big dummy he was. Why would you think of going swimming alone?
Exactly. I mean, that's what freedom is all about. And as you've said, you'd rather face the danger.
Exactly. Than lose my freedoms. I would rather be able to go be stupid and go out into the water alone and kill myself than to have the army or the police on shore saying nobody's allowed to swim because you might kill yourself.
Well, that's always the greatest danger as well. Aaron Dykes, I believe Aaron's riding shotgun there. Aaron, you had a question for Governor Ventura?
Yeah, I did, and I wanted to go back to the great quote from Benjamin Franklin that he brought up regarding if you trade your liberty for security, you end up with neither. And how many things have we been asked to compromise our liberty on under the name of national security and the rest of it, where safety cannot be guaranteed? And with that in mind, I ask, how long has the government known that these X-ray body scanners are dangerous?
Oh, I don't think they've ever done proper testing at all. It's so sick. You know who put them in? Chertoff.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I've got
to paid big money. He works for them now. This was your typical Halliburton payola.
But the reason I bring that up is because I've got a report here from earlier this month that the government studied these X-ray body scanners in 1998 and found that they were dangerous and could cause up to 100 cases of cancer a year. How's that for keeping us safe?
Yeah, there you go. See, they're going to kill you the slow way. Well, it ain't going to be a flying a plane into a building. It's going to be people being multiple X-rayed every week till they finally catch cancer or get a tumor and die within a half a year.
Well, that's what happened in Vegas. Is I just abbreviated what happened. I said, listen, I'm not going through that. That increases cancer. I've seen even the articles in the New York Times. And they're like, no, John Hopkins says it's safe. And I looked at the guy and I said, John Hopkins, head of radiology, went public and said he never talked to them and did do a study for the government and found massive increases in radiation. And the guy responds and goes, this is the second generation. It's safe. And I rattled off the name of it and said, no, you're wrong. They've got an 8-year study at Boston Logan where they first put these in, a 7-fold increase in cancer clusters. And he said, nope, you're wrong, and then started his administrative rights garbage. I mean, it's just, you even want to help these people, but they don't care. It's too much of a power trip to be able to grope people's genitals.
Well, it's a case, too, of, like I was so proud of that big Marine during the Wall Street protest that stood out there with his Iraq ribbons on his shirt, and he looked at those police, the stormtroopers who were getting ready to do in the protesters if they could, and he challenged them. He said, where is your honor? Where's your honor? And I say that to any policeman out there, any military person out there. Remember, you take an oath to the Constitution and the Bill of Rights. And always remember your honor. Is your honor more important, or is it your job?
Well, you know, Governor, that's a really good point. If the Constitution is dead, and that's what they teach now at the federal level, if it's dead, why do they still swear an oath to it to defend it from enemies foreign and domestic? We've definitely got some domestic enemies.
Oh, we've got huge domestic enemies against the Constitution and Bill of Rights. The majority of the leaders of our country seem to be that way, or who's ever in charge running the departments. It may not be the elected people. Maybe this deals like Colonel Prouty said in his book, The Secret Team, where he exposes who truly runs the government. It's the bureaucrats at high level who remain there after elected people come and go.
Well, look at Europe. They're calling it
carte blanche to do anything they want.
Look at Europe, Jesse. They're saying technocratic elite. They're saying all these former Bilderberg people, all these central bankers, they now are being put in as the presidents and prime ministers and are saying they're above the law, and they're calling it technocrats.
Whatever they want to call it, but I'll tell you, that's why people got to support this movement against Wall Street. It's not a movement against capitalism. It's not a movement to make us communist, which is what mainstream media tries to portray it. What it simply is, it's a movement stating Wall Street, stop corporations, stop buying our politicians. Because unfortunately, Alex, I'll be the one to say this on the record as a former military person. You don't serve the people of the United States anymore. You don't serve the Constitution or the Bill of Rights. Our military is the muscle for the corporate power. If they can't beat them in the corporate boardrooms, then they'll send in the U.S. Marines.
Well, that's what Smedley Butler said 80 years ago.
Exactly. And it's been going on for 100 years. Nothing has changed. All these wars are not wars for freedom. They're wars of corporate greed. Nothing more.
And these aren't even American corporations. These are New World Order globalists. Why would these people attack us if we weren't over there occupying them? Well said. Speaking of the Republican candidates, of course, CBS News got caught giving Ron Paul, the televised portion, 89 seconds and giving Romney more than 10. and then they got a memo where Bachmann was only supposed to get 2 minutes, Paul 90 seconds, Paul was given 89 seconds. Now when he wins polls, they just remove him from the winner place. I mean, that shows how scared they are.
Oh, they're scared to death. Ron Paul's got him on the run. Hopefully Ron Paul will do something after they won't give him the Republican nomination, because rest assured he's not going to get it. And hopefully he'll be courageous enough and take the bold step to become the Libertarian and be our candidate. But we'll have to wait and see on that.